Good evening. Call to order meeting of the Winston-Salem City Council and ask the City Secretary to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Light.
Here.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Vesey.
Here.
Councilmember Montgomery.
Present.
Councilmember Burke.
Here.
Councilmember Adams. Councilmember McIntosh.
Here.
And Councilmember Taylor.
Present.
Thank you very much. Would you please join the City Council and me in a moment of silence? Thank you. And would you please join the City Council and me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. I'd like to recognize the Sergeant at Arms tonight, Lieutenant Katie Peterson. And Lieutenant Peterson just got recently promoted. We congratulate her on that, and it's her first meeting tonight as Sergeant at Arms. So, Lieutenant, thank you for being with us tonight. Tonight's agenda of the City Council is comprised of the following items. We have 5 rezoning petitions. There's an item approving requests for certificates of public convenience and necessity, an item making changes to the Council's March meeting schedule, and 2 items making recommendations for appointments or reappointments to boards and commissions. The rezoning petitions and the items approving certificates of public convenience and necessity are listed for public hearings. When each of these public hearings are called, persons in the council chamber will be given an opportunity to speak. If there's opposition to the rezoning petitions, proponents and opponents will be each given 15 minutes for presentation and 3 minutes for rebuttal. If no one wishes to speak, I'll close the public hearings and the City Council will consider the item. We are televising this meeting live tonight on TV 13. And it will be replayed tomorrow at 9 a.m. and again Wednesday at 9 p.m. Of course, members of the public can always get copies of our agenda as well as videos of our meeting online at our website, www.cityofws.org, and just click on the Watch Meetings Online option. Council members, as you probably saw a memo from the City Attorney relative to items 4 and 5 that are have an impact on a Supreme Court ruling that has not been officially made as yet. And the recommendation from our City Attorney is that we continue these items until May 4th. I understand from Councilmember Light and Councilmember Montgomery that they are in agreement with that. So without objection, I'd entertain a motion to continue those items.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Clark.
Would it be okay if the city attorney would just give everyone in TV land and here
Good idea.
2 minutes on why certain cities have shut down sweepstakes and certain haven't, and kind of what's going on there, please?
Yeah. Ms. Carmen?
Sure, I'll be happy to. Back in November, the Court of Appeals ruled in the case of State versus Sproul that the defendants basically operated an establishment with machines that were illegal under the state statute. They basically constituted gambling, and that decision has been appealed, and that petition is pending in the North Carolina Supreme Court. And heretofore, the Supreme Court has issued rulings with respect to petitions within a 2 to 3 month time period. And I think all of my colleagues and the majority of law enforcement feel that the Supreme Court will basically deny that petition, which will leave in place that Court of Appeals decision basically saying these machines with the pre-reveal, which is that newest software, are illegal. Some cities and DA's offices have decided to move forward based upon that Court of Appeals decision. They've decided not to wait for the Supreme Court to rule on that petition. I know that Greensboro issued a memo back in December, it may have been January, saying that starting March 1st, they would enforce the state statute based upon that Court of Appeals decision. I honestly believe that everybody thought that the Supreme Court would have ruled by now. The next scheduled ruling for petitions or on petitions is scheduled for this Friday, March 6th, and we're kind of hopeful that this particular case will be in that batch of petitions that they will make a decision on. There's no way to know beforehand or ahead of time whether or not this particular case will be included in that batch.
So if they deny the petition, then the appellate decision stands, and then it's all over with?
Essentially, yes, all of these locations will have to close. The rezoning will be a moot issue. Spacing requirements will be a moot issue. All of these operations basically will have to close.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion to continue both items of 4 and 5 to the May 4th meeting. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, item number 1, please.
Item 1, public hearing on zoning petition of Robert E. Pike and White Oak Vista, LLC, from LB, LBS, and RS9 to LBL, property located on the north side of Country Club Road, east of Gordon Drive, located in the West Ward. Planning Board recommends approval of petition.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the council chamber who is opposed to this rezoning? I know the petitioner is here if there are any questions. All right, seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. I'd recognize Councilmember Clark.
If we could have a 2-minute brief.
Mr. Norby, starting the clock.
Mr. Mayor. You see the map there with the site shown in yellow, the basically business zoning from there to the west on the north side, and other business zoning on the south side, residential zoning on back in the neighborhood on either side there. An aerial photo that basically shows the same thing. This is part of the commercial concentration there at Gordon Manor. Some street shots looking to the west on Country Club. The site is in the immediate foreground. You can see the zoning sign. This is also part of the site, and this is a very, very large tree that is proposed to be saved as part of the rezoning petition, as well as a wide buffer in the rear of the property. This is looking from the neighborhood toward Country Club Road. The site is in that wooded area there. And this is your adopted area plan, which shows it in a commercial area. So given that, the request is consistent with both legacy and the adopted area plan. It's a good transitional use between Country Club Road and the Gordon Manor neighborhood. The petitioner has limited proposed uses and volunteered conditions on additional buffering in an effort to be more compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. And the petitioner also volunteered to retain the large existing white oak tree on the eastern portion of the site. This went on February 12th to the City County Planning Board. There was no opposition. The Planning Board recommended approval.
Questions for Mr. Norby? Thank you, Mr. Norby. Mr. Clark?
I'll move for 1, adoption of the statement of consistency as set forth on page 23 of the agenda book, and 2, approval of W3248.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Not all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That is unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Clark. Item 2.
Item 2, public hearing on zoning petition of Leroy T. and Carol E. Bovial for property owned by Robert S. and Cynthia M. McNeely from LBS to LBL, property located on the southwest side of Renolda Road, southeast of Yadkinville Road, located in the northwest ward. Planning Board recommends approval of petition.
Again, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the council chamber who is opposed to this rezoning? Again, I know the proponents are here if there are any questions. All right, seeing no one, I declare the public hearing closed. I'd recognize Councilmember McIntosh.
Yeah, Paul, could we get a briefing on this as well?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You see the site here shown in yellow on Renolda Road, just south of Yadkinville Road. You see the blue floodplain area just to the north of that. This property is already zoned LBS. It's proposed for LBL. You can see other business zoning immediately to the south of that. Aerial photo pretty much shows the same pattern there. And this is a shot of the site. Kind of looks like a log cabin type building there, previous business property. This is looking to the northwest on Renolda Road, recently built sidewalk along there. And then this is looking in the other direction. You see Gold's Gym immediately to the southeast of the property. The adopted area plan shows this for low intensity office commercial. And this site, as I said, has a long history of LBS zoning. It's adjacent to other LBS property. The proposal is consistent with the land use recommendations of the West Suburban Area Plan. And the condition for approval requires installation of a landscape street yard from the driveway to the eastern property line, and that's consistent with that of the Gold's Gym property there. This went February 12th to the Planning Board for public hearing. There was no opposition. The Planning Board recommended approval.
Any questions, Mr. Norby? Great. Thank you, Mr. Norby. Councilmember McIntosh.
I move for one, adoption of the statement of consistency as set forth on page 47 of the agenda book, and two, approval of W 3249.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Not all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That is unanimous. And Councilmember McIntosh want to make a comment.
I would like to ask staff to bring us forth an item that would look to replace some of the existing conditions that were allowable prior to this. I think there was some misunderstanding of how the process worked, and I think we'd like to address those in the future. If you could do that for us. Sure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McIntosh. Item 3.
Item 3, public hearing on zoning petition of David and Ernestine Cooper from RS9 to PBL, property located on the southwest corner of Walltown Street and Klein Street, located in the southeast ward. Planning Board recommends approval of petition.
Again, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the council chamber who is opposed to this rezoning? Seeing no one, I declare the public hearing closed and recognize Councilmember Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Norby, if you would, for informational purposes, please.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. You see the site kind of hard. You have to squint a little bit. It's a fairly narrow site right there at Walltown Street and Klein. It was actually built in the 1920s as a service station. So historically, it's always been a commercial structure, but it has never been zoned commercially, although it has been used that way up until recently. They lost their non-conforming use, and so what they're doing is they're trying to reestablish the ability to have low-intensity commercial use. They had particularly mentioned Services A. They had a hair salon in there before. This is the aerial photo of the area. You see it's very much of an urban neighborhood with scattered commercial along Walltown Avenue. This is a shot of the building there on Walltown. You can see constructed as a old style service station. It has an outbuilding connected to the back. This is looking to the west along, to the west along Walltown. And this is looking to the east immediately across the street from the property on Walltown and Klein. And this is looking from the rear of the property toward Walltown. You can see that the building that was built onto it attached there, and a small parking area at the rear of the property. The adopted area plan shows it as remaining commercial. At the time that was prepared, it was thought that that was a continued non-conforming commercial use. There wasn't an anticipation of a rezoning, but as I said, since then they have lost their legal nonconformity because that previous hair salon had closed. The structure, as I said, built as a filling station in 1920. Rezoning would allow reuse and retention of the structure, which is actually a contributing structure in the Walltown Bellevue National Register District. The PBL uses would be limited to Services A, office, and retail store. There is a condition that requires the existing structure to be retained and any exterior work to meet the Secretary of Interior's historic rehab standards. And there is limited parking available on the street and at the rear of the lot. It's also served by transit and sidewalks. Glad to answer any questions. And it went to the Planning Board on February 12th. There was no opposition. The Planning Board recommended approval.
Great. Councilmember Light.
This isn't a question, it's a comment.
Well, let's wait till we get a motion there. Any other questions, Mr. Norby? Thank you, Mr. Norby. Councilmember Taylor, may I get a motion? It's your pleasure.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion, and I'll just ask for some brief comments at the appropriate time. I move for one, adoption of the statement of consistency as set forth on page 71 of the agenda book, and two, approval of W-3250.
Second.
Motion second. Councilmember Taylor, why don't you go ahead with your comments?
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, fellow citizens, as I normally do, we were supposed to have a community meeting in the Walltown neighborhood to discuss this particular project. We were not able to have that meeting because on February the 26th, we did have some inclement weather, and that meeting was canceled. However, I did have the opportunity to speak to a number of the residents and neighbors in the community. They are not opposed to this rezoning. In fact, they're in favor of it. The only point that I wanted to point out and just make a comment on today was the community was kind of concerned about the appearance of the facility, not just this facility, but we've seen in the Walltown area on many occasions there are plenty of facilities that don't keep in mind the historical character of our community. So the main concern was this, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, that this property would maintain its historical significance, and the community was definitely in favor outside of that comment.
Thank you. Councilmember Light?
I just wanted to point out that normally, as you know, I would vote against commercial intrusion into a neighborhood, into a residential neighborhood. But given the fact that this is a historic designation and is obviously meant as a commercial establishment, it wouldn't make a very good residential unit. So I will support this.
Thank you. Councilmember Clark?
I'll just kind of echo Ms. Light's comments. This seems to be out of place in a residential neighborhood, but I will tell you, since it was a former service station, there's a 0% chance anyone would buy it and tear it down because of the potential liability that some of the gasoline may have leaked out from the underground tanks, et cetera. So I think the only hope that you have is to maintain the structure and to do something with it, so I'll support it.
Councilmember Bessie?
Yeah, just it's interesting that without the formal rezoning, there wouldn't be any obligation on the owner to retain the structure, which, as a 1920 commercial structure, actually predates our zoning code. So this is a handy double win. The owner gets to do what they want, and the community gets some protection for an existing historic structure.
Very good. All right. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That is unanimous. Thank you, Councilmember Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Item 6.
Item 6, continuation of consideration of ordinances approving requests for certificates of public convenience and necessity for 2 taxicab companies in the city of Winston-Salem. This item was continued from the January 20th and February 2nd City Council meetings. A, public hearing on ordinance approving requests for certificates of public convenience and necessity of city cab for the operation of 14 taxi cabs in the city of Winston-Salem.
And I believe the recommendation from staff is that we would continue this item to the April 6th meeting. Is that correct? Mr. Turner shaking his head. I would recognize Councilmember Taylor, Chairman of the Public Safety Committee.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I move that we continue this item.
Second.
A motion is to continue this item to the April 6th meeting. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That's unanimous. Next item, please.
Item 7, consideration of City Council's March meeting schedule.
Council members, as you saw in the memo, we proposed to add a meeting on March the 18th, a town hall meeting where we will be in Raleigh and we'll meet with our delegation, but it does require calling for a public meeting on that, as well as adding a committee of the whole meeting on March the 30th. So I would entertain a motion approving those 2 additions.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That is unanimous. Thank you. Item 8.
Item 8, Mayor Pro Tempore Burke's recommendations for reappointment to the Community Appearance Commission. Keith Wilson, appointment with a term expiring February 2018, and Danielle Nagel, reappointment with a term expiring February 2018.
Is there a motion?
Move approval. Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That is unanimous. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you.
Item 9.
Item 9, Mayor Jones' recommendations for reappointments to boards and commissions. A, Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, Mary Adams, appointment, term expiring March 2018. Brenda Jo Braining, appointment, term expiring March 2016. David Cotterill, appointment, term expiring March 2017. Thomas Fredericks, appointment, term expiring March 2016. Shanita Johnson, appointment, term expiring March 2017. William K., appointment, term expiring March 2018. Mark Lively, appointment, term expiring March 2016. Randon Pender, appointment, term expiring March 2018. And Kenneth Pettigrew, appointment, term expiring March 2017.
Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That's unanimous. And Council members, let me thank you for your nominations and suggestions for the committee. And B.
And B, confirmation of Forsyth County Board of Commissioners reappointment of Clarence R. Lamb to the City County Planning Board with a term expiring February 2019.
Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That is unanimous. Thank you. Council members, Montgomery?
Just like to make a comment in reference to the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. I think that we are very much in a great place in terms of the city as we look at our bonds and we look at where we stand with the bonds. But I think it's even more so important the fact that we have the transparency of having this Citizens Bond Review Committee, and I'm excited for that factor, and I think we're going to continue to see that opportunity for that citizens engagement and having that citizens involvement in the process moving forward.
Question, Councilmember McIntosh.
I'd just like to quickly recognize Vanessa Zaboriak's class from Wake Forest University law students. If you all could stand, if you're in attendance. Appreciate you showing up. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Go Deeks. Got a win last night. Yeah. Councilmember Taylor.
Well, in light of Mr. McIntosh's comments, I must indeed recognize a group of social work students from Winston-Salem State University who are here as well. So if you would stand and be recognized.
All right, very good. Go Rams. Played in the championship game. That's great. Who are you going to introduce, Councilmember Bessie?
Actually, I just wanted to thank both groups for coming here this evening and to let you know that the only reason some of us couldn't meet with you ahead of time is because we got a fairly late invitation, and some of us had other commitments already made to meetings at 6 or thereabouts. But we're glad you can make it here this evening and join us anytime.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Motion second to adjourn. All in favor of the motion to adjourn, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. We're adjourned.